to the discussions from earlier this morning, a lot has been talked about what is going on in the world in terms of Gen AI. Yesterday, we had meaningful conversations around sustainability. I and my fellow panel members today are going to try spending the next 60 minutes or so to talk about how some of these factors are impacting ecosystems around the world and in specific industries. We have the pleasure of having stalwarts from various industries in our panel today. And when you look at these factors, what are some of the major ones that pop out? It starts from what's happening geopolitically and macroeconomically. I've had the opportunity and pleasure to attend some conferences around the world over the last couple of months. And two topics that consistently pop up, and we've heard them in our conversations in the last 2 days here as well, is what's happening with global trade, how that is going to impact policymaking at various government levels and going to impact enterprises. So we will try to see what impact is there for Pakistan and Pakistani enterprises. Similarly, Gen AI has been talked about a lot. That's another factor. We will get into that. Financial inclusion, there's a lot of work being done in that space. And it's a key driver of how ecosystems can drive and can improve and thrive. Similarly, we look at sustainability. His Excellency, the ambassador from the UK, Ms. Jane, spoke about how Pakistan is at such a high risk of climate-related events. We saw one yesterday out of nowhere. Perhaps once in a lifetime. I think a lot of us have lived in Islamabad for many, many years, and I don't recall seeing anything even close to that. It has generated a lot of loss for a lot of people, insurance claims, all of that. I mean, thankfully, this was still relatively at a limited scale, but it generates a factor that creates disruption. So how can businesses revolve and survive around that? Lastly, if we can flip to the next slides, I wanted to share some numbers around Gen AI. This is an area that is very close to our strategy at S&P Global. This research is from S&P Global as well. And there are two key things I just want to highlight before I delve into my questions with my panel members. One is the rate of adoption of Gen AI. It is accelerating at a very, very fast pace across industries. It was higher than what was projected earlier, again, across industries. And then if you flip over to the next one, please, you will see some areas, especially when it comes to where is AI adding value? What are the segments and components across various streams where AI is generating the most value when we go and talk to stakeholders and enterprises about it. And some very interesting, I'm not going to go into the details of this specifically, but very, very interesting areas, and each one of them presenting an opportunity to leaders and colleagues from across various industries that are present here today. With that, I will get into some questions for my panel members. We can start off with Mr. Jahangir Paracha. And so in your sector, how is technology disrupting your ecosystem or adding value to it? If you can start off by talking about that, please.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. I think good to be here again. Great, I think, conference, and a lot of discussion has ensued. I think technology, as we were just discussing, is going to be very disruptive. And in our industry, which is basically manufacturing agri inputs, and obviously we are very tied up with the agriculture of this country, very, very inward looking company, but very much tied up in ensuring Pakistan's food security. 240 million people, 55 million acres of land, and these are 55 million acres of land which can be cultivated is finite. It can't be. So the country has a land area, you can only use this land area and feed the people of Pakistan. So I think when we look at how AI is disrupting our industry at two ends, obviously we have very large industrial uh, plants which were designed, I would say, 30-40 years back. And technology, the mechanical and electrical technologies have not evolved and has not really, like, it hasn't had the carburetor to EFI differential which happened, and now even people are going into the cars. So our technology is very much very, very sort of evolved 30 years back type of a technology. How do you really go and refix this asset and obviously create products at much lower value for your customer, and who's going to be very, very stressed going forward because of the climate, which is farmers of Pakistan. So I think we what I would feel that process automation and obviously using the AI is going to be the real game changer going forward for our type of industry. Any efficiency gains we are able to actually or produce much lesser the price, I think our consumer will definitely benefit from it. So I think one of the key things which Pakistani industry must push now, and I think like a belief, when the mobile phones came, we never thought it will change our lives so rapidly. I think the industry in our country should seriously now invest in technologies which are available. A lot of them have already been deployed in other countries of the world. But I think leveraging big data and AI for creating value from our current assets is going to be number one priority. Uh, Primarily, Pakistan, generally, if you really see energy, all sorts of, we are an energy importing country. A lot of our industry actually depends on imported energy, be it in the form of fuel oil, LNG, all sorts of those things are there. This is a reality of the country right now. Yes, I think we have a lot of potential in the renewables, but that's going to take time and to come in. But as currently, any efficiency gain we do is going to really impact our less consumption of the raw materials, which is again finite. The other area, which is our the Pakistani farms, the agriculture. Now, this is a person who has generally been, been used to a certain weather, certain type of practices, and certain type of seeds. Now, with the climate change, everything is changing for them, and very rapidly. This last, Rabi season, which is the winter crop, which is your wheat main crop, the difference between the sowing time actually changed by 4 weeks. So, if you were sowing early November, in some areas that happened in early November, and with the heat, obviously the outputs reduce. So I think the key area where I think technology will change for us is, first of all, getting climate, suitable seeds. Then a lot of this information, using ag tech primarily, creating ways where financial tools, which a lot of colleagues here are doing, where there's easy access to financing some of these inputs, because traditional Aarti, sort of model ain't going to work long. I mean, we need to have financing obviously to do. So fintech, agtech, and at the end of the stream is when they are selling out their products, obviously there has to be a buyer for it. Now, I'm very delighted yesterday, Punjab government actually announced electronic warehousing receipt, which is basically that you put it in a warehouse and you get an electronic warehouse receipt, and that receipt you can store that product, you can eventually trade it in the mercantile commodity exchange and also take loan on it. So I think all of this technology driven change will really impact the earning, and all the inefficiencies which we had in the system will definitely reduce and will make our farmers more resilient to the challenges which they're facing. I think that's my take. Thank you.
Thank you, Jahangir Saab. Very pertinently answered and very well covered on most of the major factors. It's working now finally. We fixed our ecosystem at least. Janze, moving on to you. We just spoke about financial inclusion, right? And you represent a huge component of that. So how do you see the role of digital banks and financial inclusion in Pakistan, and specifically EasyPaisa's role in really enabling this ecosystem?
I think just like Jahangir Saab mentioned, a financial ecosystem is vital to the national cause. Regardless of the industry, we play a role, and the financial services industry in Pakistan has done a pretty decent job at enabling the fundamentals of different type of financial tools across the masses in Pakistan thus far. We at EasyPaisa, being the first digital bank, we already are providing services to 50 million registered account holders in Pakistan. That's 1 out of every 4 Pakistani is leveraging EasyPaisa. Just last year, we processed approximately upwards of 9 trillion rupees passed through our platform, which is approximately upwards of 9% of Pakistan's GDP, right? So it's a massive undertaking and a platform that we pioneered, where now payments has almost become a commodity, and every one of the banks and financial institutions and startups are providing those payment services. I think where we need to now scale beyond it and leverage technology to help us get beyond where we are is, I think we at EasyPaisa are already now talking about digital bank as history and talking more about an AI-enabled bank. We are talking about leveraging AI for hyper-personalization. We are talking about AI to strengthen and reduce the fraud and the scamming, which is prevalent in our society. We are talking about AI in our operational efficiencies. In global banks like JP Morgan, almost 80% of the coding that typical coder, a technology person used to do, is now automated by AI. And I'm sure Asif will talk more about it, right? But it's important that we develop a thriving ecosystem around the different multi-industries. And I'm happy to share here that we are partnering with probably every one of the players sitting here on this panel.
Yeah.
And that is the vitality of a strong ecosystem, where you need to have open banking APIs. You need to enable Pakistanis to do their payments, lending services, whatever they want at the tip of the fingertips via their mobile phone. And that is our EasyPaisa's ambition, to be able to partner with everyone around the industry to enable Pakistanis to have the access of capital so they can grow their businesses and they can thrive in this economy.
Thank you, Janze. Very aptly said. Asif, moving on to you, I think as representing one of the largest technology companies in Pakistan, and when we look at these factors that impact various ecosystems, Janzeb spoke about AI. So I will definitely like your take on how that's shaping up your industry and your space. But I also would like if you can comment a little bit on what's happening with the geopolitical, macroeconomic area as well, especially in North America. And how do you see that presenting an opportunity or presenting some challenges for Pakistani enterprises and people operating in this region? So a twofold question for you, please.
Okay, great. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good afternoon. So thanks, Asfar, in the nutshell, for hosting this amazing conference. Thank you, Mujib, for asking these twofold questions. So first, I will start with geopolitics and macroeconomics question, which is on top of everybody's head. And every morning, at least especially the US morning, we start with something new, and we have to be adjusted. So I think that shows this global world. Globalization is, of course, now in a different context. You have to see its challenge. So now you come up and you have to be prepared. You have to be resilient of any change, and you have to be prepared what's going to happen and how you react and act. Is it proactive or reactive? It depends. So I think I'll just speak about from the Pakistan perspective. Of course, we have such a small share if we are talking about US specifically, from our exports, whether it's IT, whether it's goods. So we have only to gain. It's a huge opportunity when these situations happen. Of course, in the industry we live, service industry is not impacted. It's, of course, from the tariffs and other perspective. But when these things happen, what happens? The CFOs and CEOs, and as I said, like, you have to be prepared for anything. When you are prepared, when these things disrupt, you see that immediate reaction is definitely, it is going to have some impact. You can't say that everything will be hunky and dory and there will be no inflation, there will be nothing is going to happen. So there will be changes, right? And organizations in Pakistan, especially the manufacturing or services, both needs to be ready for an opportunity, because when there is a cost pressure, when there is a pressure of change, then everybody looks for an avenue to consolidate their operation, consolidate their operations, consolidate their vendors and partners, and bringing the efficiency. And when they talk about the efficiency, productivity, what happens? Technology comes at the forefront. You can't optimize if you don't have the process in place. If you don't have the technology, AI, of course, is one area, but it's a lot. So I think as a Pakistani exporters or Pakistani nation, we have a huge ground to play, because somebody's loss is somebody's win. And if we can just care about how can we differentiate ourselves in this difficult time, and that's an opportunity for the countries or the companies who have a very small share. You have nothing to lose. So you have to all go all out and exploit whatever you can in this huge opportunity that is surfacing out of these challenges. I can give you an example of COVID, right? IT industry, like, have a 30-40% growth, and that was a leapfrog. How it happened? Because it was a disruption event, it was a huge challenge for the world, but we as a country played it very well, where we kept IT, and we said IT industry is also one of the essential industry. So it remains open, and the world was shut down. There was so much of influx that we received, which we couldn't even hope. And when world were laying off the people, we were hiring people. We were hiring talent. So these disruption and these challenges provides a huge and humongous opportunity for everyone. I think everyone needs to be prepared, and these geopolitical changes, when you have a very small thing, you have enough stake on the ground. So coming back to, that's my perspective, and I think we are acting and reacting on it, and I'm very bullish about it, very optimistic about it. That will gain, again, like COVID, will gain a lot of share when this disruption happen, and we could be one of the providers when people are looking for options, right? So you can only come in when somebody looks for option. Options generate when there is a disruption or challenge. In the status quo, options are limited,
Right.
because people are happy in what they do, and when things changes, there is an option. So then that's what we need to cultivate. The second part, AI, I think now, I said once, AI or die, right? So I think it's not an option, right? So that you don't do the digital transformation, you don't use your data, you don't use the AI transformation, as Jazib said, that like hyper-personalization or any industry, like we heard from Jahangir Saab as well, like whether it's agriculture, whether it's ed tech, whether it's a fintech, I think your data is your data, right? So that's the trust you need to have on your data. We all generate the data every micro milliseconds and tons of data. Even in sitting in this conference, you can generate tons of data, what people are doing, what are their sentiments when we are speaking, which thing they like, which comments. So I think it's every minute, seconds, milliseconds, there is a data generated. So as Jahangir Sahab was just saying that big data to AI, I think AI is, of course, as we all know, it's since 1951. It's not a new thing, right? We have been using this mathematical model for prediction, prescription to normal descriptive reportings. So, but now what this last 1.5 year, like the even internet took 20 years for the transformation, AI and Gen AI took like 1.5 years to reach a 25% adoption rate. Why? Because now we have a UI for AI, user interface for AI. Because earlier we all thought about that you need to be programmer, you need to be very good mathematician to write these models. Now you can query, you have an intelligent interrogation tool available. You ask the right prompt or right questions, you will get a lot of information. Yes, there are judgmental interrogation as well, where you have to make a decision. So human in the loop. So we heard that AI will replace the people and 80% of the jobs are disrupted. It's not like that. There are a lot of judgmental interrogation that, or judgmental decision where human in the loop, because you can have multiple scenarios, but you have to choose which one will act and react, because always whatever works in US, it is not necessarily going to work in Pakistan. Whatever works in Middle East, even it is not going to work in Pakistan. Even whatever is work in Islamabad may not work in Karachi. So you have to have a lot of input parameters, a lot of ingredients into it. So AI is definitely not a choice. It's not an option for the industry. But if you don't have a good, strong data engineering, and you don't have the data, because now customers in our field are asking about us that how you can use my data and apply the LLMs and apply the AI on my data, use the external, but don't share my data to outside organization or the model. Don't train on my data the external models. I want to keep it my data at mine, but I want to leverage all the facilities that OpenAI provides me today. So that is the world is moving. And if our industries don't do it, we have to move away from subsidies to productivity to efficiency. Every industry. Yeah. I think when you are looking for competing in the global ecosystem for exports, or any industry, you have to bring the efficiency, productivity, and it cannot come just by saying that we will be efficient and productive. It has to be exploiting all the data and exploring the new opportunities through the technology disruption. Because in today's world, the disruption is very easy. Any small player or startup comes and disrupt the large organization. We have seen tons of use cases and examples. If I keep going on, it will never end. Why? Because large players and incumbents say it's not going to happen, they just keep neglecting the change. But disruptor comes with an open mind and just come and just disrupt, right? So I think we don't have an option. I think whoever is a student, whether you're a student, professionals, I think you have to learn this. And in today's world, learning is not difficult. Everything is available. You just need to have a willingness to learn, and computers are coming to you. You are not going to computers. So that's the thing that you need to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, Asif. Very, very rightly said. I think 2 points that you made that really resonate with me as well. One is around proprietary data. This trend of enterprises and organizations, even states, creating frameworks and models that keep their proprietary data to themselves and secure. However, they leverage capabilities that are built from multiple tools is very, very pertinent, something to think about for leaders of various organizations that are sitting in the audience. And then the second point around talent, and that applies on everybody. You gave a couple of those anecdotes. I'll add one before I move on to Fatma, for my next question. And that is, I heard this somewhere, somebody clearly more wise than me said this, that humans will not be replaced by AI, but humans will be replaced by humans who are skilled in AI. So opportunity is tremendous. I couldn't agree more with what Asif talked about, being bullish on the opportunity that, and the only thing stopping us is our ability to have the skills that will allow us to get into all of those opportunities. Fatma, I'll come to you. Sorry for the wait. We have and for Haris and Abrar Saab, we're coming. Please hang in there. I'll ask a twofold question from you as well, Fatma. One would be around what we were just discussing from a talent perspective. You also run a large organization that is at the leading edge of a lot of these technologies. How are you seeing the talent playing a role in the ecosystem and its changing requirements? And then also another area that I know you're very, very passionate about is around governance and sustainability, which is definitely one of the key factors that is impacting ecosystems across multiple industries. So would love your take on those two things.
Thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum. These are very pertinent questions, but I would like to actually take a step back and just for the benefit of the audience, we talk about the symphony because that's, the focus of not only just shaping ecosystem, but the symphony of shaping and putting certain action plans in place. If you think about it, and if there's an analogy, the best analogy is an orchestra. Right? So it is not individual instruments. It's how the instruments come together to produce some beautiful music. And that is what an ecosystem is in its true form in terms of balance and the value that it can add and enthrall the audience. And also have some kind, great value as well. If anyone is interested in classical music, and I'm sure you've gone to an orchestra, it's beautiful. But who stands at the head, at the lead, is the conductor. And the conductor's responsibility is to ensure that all of the facets of an orchestra work together to deliver that beautiful sound. The question is, then you replicate that particular example into your organizations where you talk about talent and what my esteemed colleagues have also spoken about, that how do you orchestrate this symphony which is very holistic? And it is the day and age of collaboration. That is why it affects the talent. It's not about competition. I feel there is a shift globally, and I'm hoping it will come into Pakistan as well, that where we have to collaborate, whether we're tech innovators, whether we represent the government, whether we're business leaders, or we are an individual or an entrepreneurial startup. Unless we collaborate to work towards that common goal, there will always be dissonance. The most beautiful example is nature in itself. One component you take out, and exactly what happened yesterday, and so many other examples only in the last couple of months, the fires in California, the floods in Asia Pacific, etc. There is an imbalance. And that obviously raises the larger question of climate sustainability. That imbalance is our, ladies and gentlemen, our fundamental responsibility. Look at it from your own organization. Look at the role that you play within your own organization. And when there is, and in my mind, if there is a strategy which is driving how an organization functions, obviously there are different stakeholders. There's the government support, which I must applaud the focus of the government in terms of the digital Pakistan, which Asif also talked about, where we focus on that support in terms of policy, in terms of relationships. But at the end of the day, there's a delivery between the public and the private, through the public and private partnerships as well. That needs to be sustainable. And once the strategy is in place, what runs that? It is the systems, the structure, the policies, of course, but fundamentally the talent. So we can give that opportunity to our talent, but are we doing enough to upskill them? Are we doing enough to reskill them, to prepare them for this age of AI, which is upon us. It's not something which will happen. It is already happening. And those who will lead and succeed are not only those who adapt and also reskill, you said it very well, reskill themselves, but who are resilient in their approach towards collaboration, and there is purpose with which they are driving. Organization leaders and government leaders have to recognize that. The third element is the unity and discipline behind what needs to get done, and therefore it becomes sustainable. So talent definitely is getting impacted. I feel in a country, I believe in a country where we have almost 250, 245 million. It keeps on changing, so a few million here and there. Unfortunately, we're one of the most populous countries and a very high growth rate as well. I was reading yesterday that last year, 2024, for example, Japan had a growth rate where their mortality was more than their birth rate. And we produced, mashallah, 5.5 million children. So how are we going to sustain that? And that is our biggest question. I feel that this particular element is what we need to address as business leaders as well as the government, because jobs have to be created, education institutions have to be created. And what is happening is everyone is working towards educating themselves, but is it really education? It's not just academic excellence, it's also about being value added for the future. The second element is the sustainability. Governance frameworks are also changing globally. I was at Harvard earlier this year, and there was an amazing conversation in terms of just the shift towards the focus on governance frameworks, cybersecurity, and of course climate change being at the heart of it, but also this resilience within people to adapt wherever you are in the world. It is not about being in more developed countries. It's about how do we capture that opportunity within the space of big data, within the space of AI and data sciences and data analytics, allowing us to contribute value. And if we get that equation balanced, then we look at sustainability, which will add value, but in the long term. So the shift is definitely there. Do we recognize the shift? Are we looking at the opportunities? Are we rethinking our governance frameworks? That means a lot of homework for the board of directors and the governance boards in terms of what really matters. And are we asking the right questions at the end of the day? That's something someone said in the earlier panel as well. Are we asking the right questions from a sustainability perspective? Then climate finance comes into action. And so just to wrap it up, I would like all of you to think about the fact that all of us can contribute very positively in an action-oriented manner. But just see if there is an ecosystem which is nature, and you take out one component of it and everything collapses. Case in point, what happened yesterday as far as the weather. If you were to do that in your own organizations and whichever community that you belong to, how would that impact? That means each one of us can play an integral role in transforming in this age of disruption and really shape a very stronger Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatma. Very nicely summarized. And I think to your point around sustainability and governance frameworks, it becomes even more pertinent because as companies operating in Pakistan look to expand and grow regionally, they encounter some of these requirements from a governance standpoint. So having the expertise and the muscle to be able to navigate those governance requirements and having strong processes internally is a direct, it is not a nice to have, more and more it is becoming a direct contributor to your P&L. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Haris and Abraj Saab, I'll have the same question for you both, and I would love your input on that. And it is around how digital financial ecosystems impact our enterprises, and Janzeb spoke a little bit about what they're doing for the country. I would love to get both of yours perspective. Haris, we can start with you, and then Abrar Sahab, I'll come to you for the same question.
Assalamu alaikum ji, and good afternoon. I think Janzib just spoke briefly about financial inclusion. But I think financial inclusion does not mean that we just open a wallet account or we have a bank account. I think what we need to do is we need to think slightly more than that. And what we envision is that every person in Pakistan should have a smartphone, affordable smartphone, a data, and tools for two businesses, and also access to credit. That is something that's going to actually help and build that ecosystem, what we are talking about, in which we help in building small businesses where they grow and be given employment opportunities. And now, instead of changing the mind shift, what we have to do is that we don't have to go and look for jobs. I think we need to employ people. That is something that is collaboration, what is required from us. When we talk about digitally financial inclusion, we do approximately 11% of Pakistan GDP through Mobilink Bank. And as Janzeb said, it's 9.3 something around from Telenor. So if you look at the 20% of Pakistan's GDP goes straight to these financial institutions. So we can imagine the potential if rest of all other financial inclusions can come and take play, it will have a very major play. And secondly, an important thing is that we process approximately 120,000 micro loans a day, which is playing a very important role in giving loans to small businesses and also to small individuals, like when we talk about a rider of a food panda or a driver of a Careem, or someone who buys fruit in the market from the market in the morning, and the evening when he sells, he returns the loan. This is something that we really need to build on, because we are taking the loan sharks away from the people, where they do not have any dignity when they go and ask for them. And, the way they're being treated is also in a very different manner, which we do not appreciate that. This is, I think, how we're going to build the ecosystem, which is going to help in Pakistan. It's heartening to know that we're seeing some growth in terms of GDP, and we're looking at 2.5%, and eventually, inshallah, it will grow further. So I think bringing those ecosystems together in the financial system where the access to credit is very limited. I just want to share, an example. In late 60s, Pakistan's private credit to GDP was roughly around 20%, and more or less similar with India, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam. And we talk about now, so it's less than 20% of Pakistan. And if we talk about Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and now even Bangladesh joining, all over 45, 50, and 60%. I think we need to build a ecosystem where we can provide access and credit to all those individuals, all those businesses, where we can build this. And that's how we're going to put people not only in financial inclusion, but also help in grow the businesses.
Abrar Sahab, you can chime in on the same.
Ji, thank you very much. So I think when we start talking about digital financial ecosystems, I genuinely believe a digital financial ecosystem has the potential to completely transform the environment, the whole business models, to enable a lot of non-financial platforms to connect with each other, to create new business models, and also to scale up and create value. So when you imagine if you have a very solid digital financial ecosystem where you've got good quality data coming through in real time, and you can offer real-time loans, real-time investments, real-time insurance capabilities. And in all of that, if that is happening in real time, across the whole value chain, if it starts from, let's say, agri to manufacturing to distribution to the consumer itself, you look at the whole ecosystem or the value chain itself. If the digital financial system is enabled across all the value chain in real time, the kind of value it can unlock, the speed it can provide, the kind of transparency it can provide, the kind of data that it delivers to enable people to go out and create new business models, to scale existing business models, those opportunities are phenomenal. And if we take, for example, let's say a micro entrepreneur somewhere in rural part of Pakistan who wants to sell their produce to a large city in Pakistan via an e-commerce platform. So you see, there's an e-commerce platform, there is that producer, let's say that's a farmer, they have the logistics company that is involved, but all of these are individual platforms that are non-financial platforms that are not typically connected with each other. They get connected with each other via the digital financial transactions because those are the ones that enable them to move stuff from one place to another in return for the exchange of the value. So there are so many potentials that are available out there. If we can get our digital financial ecosystem to work cohesively, comprehensively across the value chain. But I think the only thing I would certainly want to go out and say is you can have all the products, you can have all the technology, you can have all the tools. But the technology, the tools, the products, they don't result in the evolution of the ecosystem. What results in the evolution of the ecosystem is trust. What results in the evolution of ecosystem is the right governance model, right policies, and most importantly, having the right quality of human capital. So all of these need to come together for any digital ecosystem, whether it is financial or anything else, for them to go out and deliver the real value, to become the true multiplying force that they can be, to deliver the kind of transformational impact that they can truly deliver.
Fantastic. I think great point around the factors that really develop an ecosystem. In the next round, I'll love to talk a little bit more about policies and what needs to be done perhaps from Jahzeb, Haris, and Abrar Sahab. But I want to switch gears a little bit and come back to Jahangir and speak. One of the factors that you see up there also is around the energy transition and how that is really, for those of us who are watching world markets and commodity markets specifically, this is a very, very happening space. There's a lot going on there in terms of how the world is moving from traditional power sources and their energy. All this growth, all this opportunity requires energy, right? And as Fatma very rightly mentioned, fast growing, at least population wise, nations like Pakistan are also going to continue to have these demands. We also talked about food security earlier. So these two are very, very interlinked. I would love to get your thoughts, Jahangir, on this. You are at an excellent vantage point from your organization for a view on both of these things. So please share some thoughts on that.
I think energy transition is obviously universal. It's just not limited to our country. And primarily, the world is moving to a world, sort of a usage of energy, primarily electricity. And the shift will be renewables, period. I mean, this is something which we saw in our country also. Right. I think Pakistan probably had, and my numbers might not be fully sort of there, but one of the most rapid solarization of rooftop. I mean, it was not a government policy. It was basically a transformation happened because you made the electricity so expensive that people immediately switched to a resource, and then mainly upper middle class and richer segments of the society, but also in the villages. I mean, you go to the kokas, you go to villages, and you find that the tube wells are running on solar panels. So the transformation has been very much across the country, and it was literally private-led. I mean, it was small solar companies which were spreading the message and obviously providing service. Pakistan, to be honest, was very blessed with our discoveries of gas in 50s. We became literally a gas, so a lot of people don't realize, but Pakistan became a gas-based economy. I think I would say 60s, 70s, 80s, we had enough gas. We were using it for electricity generation, for heating, for cooking in our houses. So our entire ecosystem got developed, and with inefficient, cookers and the gas boilers and the geysers, and I don't want to go to that. So we squandered a lot of that also away. But I think that transition, this solar revolution which you saw in Pakistan, means that if you provide the right environment, and in this case, I mean, the market pricing actually drove it, the transformation could be so rapid,
Right.
So Pakistan hopefully will not be in a very bad shape. We are blessed with obviously a lot of ample solar energy. We have wind also in southern Pakistan. The only catch is the base load. The base load is primarily where when the solar and wind is not there, you still need a base load. And I think that transition is also happening with some nuclear power plants in Pakistan.
Right.
I don't know, I'm a big propagator of nuclear energy. So I think that transformation is going to be even more bigger going forward, because SMRs, the small SMR technology has been available to the world for a very long time. Is small modular reactors. They were put in the submarines. The US always had it.
Right.
So it's a small. So imagine you have a small nuclear reactor which can just produce 1 megawatt of electricity, and you could put it in your house. Now this technology has existed since 1960.
Yeah.
And they were in nuclear submarines of US and also Russia. Now this technology is becoming commercialized. Now, so technology is becoming commercialized when it was available for almost 50 years, where a small, nuclear reactors are very big. When we think of nuclear reactor, we're thinking about, 1,000 megawatt. Imagine a small reactor which is a 1 megawatt or 5 megawatt, which will be available to you. And obviously, there's with nuclear energy, there's a safety concern. But this technology is going to be a game changer. Yeah. This is the new thing which is coming. So you'll practically have renewables and maybe a comeback of the nuclear.
Yeah.
And comeback of a nuclear where I can and you can buy a nuclear reactor, imagine, as a company. So that is the next transformation which is happening in the transition. And I think this SMR technology is going to be very, very essential for people who cannot just switch, because obviously with solar and wind, you need to have land and,
Right.
You can't put it everywhere. So, for factories, for industry, it will become extremely important to have it. Coming back to the food security question. So I think this transition, I just wanted to share with people.
Right.
On food security, the challenge is much bigger. So if I look at a country like Pakistan, low per capita income, and I read somewhere, so some of the people, you are in the business of numbers,
Right.
but for Pakistanis, primarily, it's the carbohydrates which give us the calories. Unfortunately, it's not a balanced diet. 70% of our country's people, and I don't mean people sitting in this room, but people with very low incomes, they survive on roti. So it's basically wheat.
Yeah.
Second crop, we need proteins. So the second crop which is sustaining this country is poultry. Is it working?
Yeah.
Yeah, the poultry is the second, our primary source of protein is poultry. And again, it is dependent on our maize crop.
Yeah.
That is a chicken feed.
Yeah.
So these two crops actually are essential for this country's food security. One is source of indirect protein. The other is obviously the carbohydrates. Now, maize, because it was always a deregulated, and a lot of research went into it, is doing well. There is hybrid seeds. Wheat, because it was always regulated by our governments, unfortunately is under a lot of stress. And you're hearing today even, how we are going to face. But imagine a country which is dependent on wheat 70%. The question now comes, because as we said, with the climate challenge, the solution will have to be very specific to the geography you are living.
Yeah.
So a solution cannot be done, let's say wheat research which is done in US, you can't replicate it in Pakistan. So for a country with a 250 million people and adding 5 million every year, 5 million every year and going up, you need agronomist. That is one of the most essential for us, maybe not for Japan, where their populations are going down, but do we have high quality research-based agriculture universities? Yes, I mean, those are the kind of scientists which we will need, because now for thousands of years we had seeds which worked with a certain climate. Now with the change, how do you really rewire your entire environment? So for Pakistan, I think one of the key talent requirement will be agronomy.
Yeah.
If we are, unless we fix our population issue, if we, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah,
but
that's not gonna happen.
That's not going to, so next 50 years, agronomy is going to be one of the largest requirement of this country. I don't even hear any talk about it anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
No. Very, very pertinent thoughts, and I think an area that is very close to home for everybody, because it is something that we all, regardless of what business line we're in, are impacted with. And then very interesting on SMRs. I mean, all of you should check out. There's this thing called the Enron egg. Anybody remember Enron? Used to be this, power company that did funny things and then went out of business. They've come back, and Enron Egg is exactly that. It's a small egg-shaped device that leverages SMR technology. Brilliant. We're going to get into a little bit of a rapid-fire category. My colleagues and I are the only thing standing between this audience and lunch. So we're going to try to quicken our pace a little bit. Janzeb, as promised, I'm coming back to you with a policy-related question. So we talked about what makes an ecosystem tick. Now, let's get into a little bit of, I think all of you have mentioned steps that have been taken, that have been positive. What's next? What else can be done from a policy standpoint that will enable financial inclusion in the ecosystem from your perspective? And Haris and Abrar Saab, I'll come to you next with the same question. And then afterwards, I have a different one for Asif and Fatma.
So quickly, cash in circulation in Pakistan is still one of the highest. That means there is immense opportunity domestically. So we need to make cash more expensive than digital payments because of all the multitude of benefits we get out of it. We and our colleagues are working closely with the government on enabling policies at the government level where we encourage digital payments, just like we've done credit cards. And you've seen the movement in the credit card movement, but just a slight policy enabler of reduced taxes if you pay via credit card. So enable the movement to digital payments. If we apply the same policy to digital payments, it will skyrocket because the customer value proposition grows tremendously, as well as the merchant value proposition, and the customer is going to start to demand and leverage digital tools like mobile apps, like QR codes, etc. So I think that we are working with the policymakers at the government level, and thankfully we are backed by very progressive regulators. And the recent Prime Minister Ramzan package is an example of it, where for the first time across the country, the funds were dispersed electronically, digitally to wallets at the bottom of the pyramid. So that shows the level of change. Secondly, I would suggest is, I think our financial ecosystem has done a tremendous job in the last many years domestically. I think now we need to think big and extend our ecosystems beyond Pakistan and Pakistanis to regional and global level. I think the 5 digital banks awarded the license, every one of them is backed by international shareholder, including us. We are backed by Alibaba and Financial Group. And what we are working now on is to extend the ecosystem that they have developed, which is approximately 1.3 billion consumers across 90 million merchant and retailers across 66 markets globally. And that is what now we are working on, extending that ecosystem to every Pakistani via mobile phone. And imagine what that can enable every one of us and the freelancers who are working day in, day out for the betterment of the country. Thank you.
Brilliant. No, thank you, Janzeb. Haris, anything to add to that from a policy standpoint?
I think Jazeb clearly defined what we need in terms of the policy. But what we have to see is that our competition is cash, as just Jazeb mentioned. It's not about any banks or anything which we're colliding. So I think what we need to do is that we need to incentivize all those touch points where we can use digital payments rather than the cash. And that has happened in all the developing countries where they have actually gone from cash to digital payments. Like one of the biggest example I would say is India and also Kenya. And I think that's what we need to adopt in terms of Pakistan, like any QR payment through a merchant. So we need to reduce the federal excise duty and the sales tax at provincial level. So we can actually promote inclusivity of all those places where this can be used as digital payments. That's going to be a very big game changer in terms of how we can actually compete with the cash and promote the digital payments. Thank you.
Ebrar Sahab?
So, thank you. So I think I'll not talk about the financial ecosystem that's been talked about. Fundamentally, when we look at the word symphony, what does it mean? Symphony means sounding together. And as Fatima mentioned earlier, a true orchestral masterpiece happens when the conductor makes sure all of the various musical instruments are working together, they're working in rhythm, they're working in tandem with each other. That's when a magic happens. So similarly, if we take the same analogy to the ecosystems, you've got your agriculture sector, you've got your manufacturing sector, you've got your distributions, you've got your consumers. A typical supply chain cycle. To me, these are all equivalent of different musical instruments, and a policy defined by the government acts as that conductor that can either ensure they all work in rhythm with each other to create magic, or they continue to kind of work against each other at times and result in lots of friction, lots of inefficiencies in the system. So while financial ecosystem has been talked about, we can look at another example. Our water management policies and our post-harvest crop storage policies. A combination of these two different things defines what our agri-product cycle goes through every year. So we have the boom and bust cycles of wheat and cotton every year. There's a good crop, the farmer does not know what to do with the crop, they get taken advantage of, they don't get the right price, the manufacturer makes a killing out of it, the farmer suffers. Next year the farmer does not sow enough, there's a shortage, we end up importing crops. So if there were good coordinated policies around that, things could be very different. Similarly, in terms of water management, our irrigation system, we've had the best irrigation system. We've not really worked on it. The result is we've got about 30% of cultivable land is irrigated by our canal system. As against that, in India, it stands at about 80%. We are now also talking about using blockchain, etc., to tokenize our minerals and other assets and connect those to the international global systems to create more value, to take advantage of those. So we have lots of small things and small initiatives that happen, but those don't happen in coherence with each other. So maybe one of the things if we can look at a national level, if we could create a kind of a cross-sectoral policy body that could look at the policies being formed and to see how coherent they are across the whole supply chain, just to make sure all those policies are accretive at each stage, they are all adding value at each stage, and they're not causing friction at different stages. So to that end, I think policy remains a very critical driver of making sure that we have that symphony of ecosystems. Thank you.
Brilliantly said, Rasa. Thank you. I've been given by our orchestrator a Perchi to conclude this symphony as quickly as we can, but I will put Asif and Fatma a little bit on the spot. You both run organizations that have global presence. You talk to customers and people from around the world. I want your quick input on these two things. Are customer demands changing? And if yes, what? Very, very quickly. And then secondly, from a talent standpoint, any advice for Pakistani talent? Because I know pretty much everybody here is a large employer. We are a large employer. And the thing holding us back is finding people with the right skill set. So if you can comment on these two things, same question to you as well, Fatma. So you have a little bit of a heads up to prepare. And please be mindful of the orchestrator's parchi as well.
Okay, I'll take a minute or two. So I think, yes, definitely the demand has changed. And the world, as things changes, demand has to be changed, right? Because as more progressive and more innovative new things come, demand will change. So everyone nowadays asks how to do more with less. So everyone wants to do more with less. So how you do more with less? You can't do more with less without technology, without better service, without efficiency, without bringing the technology into the mix, without bringing data into the mix, without bringing AI into the mix. You can't do it, right? You just say that I'll just keep doing what I'm keep doing and I still will do more with less. It doesn't happen because inflation is there, right? Wherever you are, you have to give COLA, a minimum, right? So it means cost is going up and you want to do more with less. It means you have to be more efficient, right? If you are in our field, if you are a coder, or in your field, if you are processing something from a business process perspective, you need to be efficient and you need to be leveraging each and every tool at your disposal and each and everything to question why you are doing this. Why can't it be automated? Everything needs to be challenged in what you do, how you do, and what you need to do more with less. So definitely this is changing and it will continue to change. If we don't change and if we don't provide the efficiency and if we just say it's a labor arbitrage, we will not be able to compete in the global ecosystem. So labor arbitrage is not going to be sustainable for sure. It is with Pakistan, I think labor arbitrage as well as this technology transformation and being adaptive of this and resilient about it and be persistent about it will be the game changer for us. For talent, the second question that you ask, of course, we have the talent, but we have the raw talent, right? How do we transform and convert that raw talent to the talent which we all can use and leverage from the day one? So I think time is of the essence. Entire ecosystem, private sector, public sector, and the government and the education sector, it's an emergency. It's not a choice, as we heard, that population is growing more than the GDP growth we have. So if our GDP growth is 1.5%, as whatever we say, and top population growth is 2.5%, we are in a different direction, right? So I think that's where rubber meets the road, where the raw talents needs to be transferred to the skilled workers, and everyone needs to learn more than what they know today. And we have to have either vocational training, we have to come up with an emergency situation to train the youth. We cannot keep saying that we have 250 million people, we have 60% is under 30 years. That is not going to help. It is going to be the burden if we can't transform the talent, because it will be a huge burden if we can't create the jobs. And since everyone wants to do more with less, it means they need less people, but more skillful people. And how we can create jobs for everyone is going to be, should be the topic for everyone's mind. Every industry, every investment dime needs to go into the talent production.
Awesome. Thank you. Fatma, I have the time up, Parchi, but I'll give you
Thank you.
60 seconds
60
to
seconds?
2 minutes.
Thank you. 120 seconds. So, no, thank you very much. And I'll very quickly wrap this up. You know, as a business leader, one of my top questions is always, are we ensuring that our customer engagement and our customer experience is at par with global standards? And that is one of the toughest. It's not the only question I ask, of course. I have other KPIs as well. But that fundamentally reflects back into the diversity of not only businesses that we have, but the diversity of the markets that we serve. We're across 30 countries right now. Our global delivery center is Pakistan. We're very proud of that fact. But with a growing headcount of 4,500 people, and inshallah, I hope, it continues to grow with a stellar leadership team, the idea is to also look at it from an internal customer perspective. So do we have the right talent who can serve our external customers according to their not only expectations and requirements, but also serve their changing needs in a world which is so unpredictable? The topic of this, the theme of this conference is navigating the unknown. All of us are in that personally and professionally in a space where what is next? And we have to define what is next, and we have to make sense of what is happening with us. And that, ladies and gentlemen, reflects back into how we manage the organizations or lead in terms of what the priorities are. Talent, the right talent will win you not only sustainable profitability and performance, will ensure that that next customer or your existing customers will continue to have that confidence, that trust, that they will work with you on a long-term basis. And that's what I was talking about in terms of sustainability as well. Because that's what the board looks at, that's what we want to, and that's your value proposition at the end of the day. So when we encompass that and you create a harmony within the organization, it goes back to what is your stakeholder wanting. Two main stakeholders for me, our people and the customer.
Absolutely.
But looking at it from a local context,
Yeah.
not saying this will work here in Pakistan. Pakistan is an amazing land of opportunities. We just have to, one final word I would like to say is to maintain the integrity of the system and the mindset of saying we must give that support on a sustainable across all stakeholders. That means when the government works with the private sector, it collaborates with other parties as well, there has to be a trust behind it that what is due to whoever's making an effort is given.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.